Pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. When was the last time you truly thought about yourself? Not your job, not the expectations of others, but you. The truth is, you've spent too much time living for everyone else, answering endless demands until you've forgotten who you are. In a world that never stops, where busyness is praised, you drift without direction. But if you don't make yourself a priority, you'll slowly become a faint shadow in your own life. Stoicism does not call for selfishness. It reminds you that if you don't take control of your life, someone else will. This video is a quiet yet powerful reminder. It's time to pause, to reflect, and to put yourself first. Not out of ego, but out of responsibility. Not to withdraw, but to begin living with intention. 1. Ethan's story. A lesson in self-neglect. Ethan was the kind of person everyone liked. He wasn't loud or flashy, but he was always there when others needed him. At work, he was like a quiet cog that kept the entire machine running smoothly. People had grown so used to his presence that they no longer recognized his value. Ethan arrived early, stayed late, and willingly took on extra tasks, not for praise, but simply because he believed it was the right thing to do. His boss appreciated his dedication, and his co-workers turned to him because they knew he wouldn't say no. "Ethan, can you stay a bit longer?" "Sure." "Can you help draft this?" "No problem." Each yes pushed his personal life further aside, but he never stopped to ask himself, "What about me?" The sad truth is, this didn't just happen at work. In his personal life, Ethan was no different. When his mother called in the middle of the day, he stepped out of meetings to answer. When friends needed a listener, he dropped all plans, even ones he had looked forward to all week. He believed this was the necessary sacrifice to maintain relationships, to prove his worth, to be the reliable one. And so, year after year, Ethan lived like a flat mirror, reflecting others' expectations but holding no image of his own. Everything might have continued like this if not for one fateful afternoon. During yet another long meeting, while everyone was still deep in debate, Ethan felt a sudden pain in his left chest. Sweat broke out, his vision blurred, and he collapsed onto the table. When he woke up in the hospital, the first thing he heard was the doctor's voice, calm but firm. "You're suffering from severe exhaustion, chronic anxiety, and stress-induced arrhythmia. If you keep living this way, your body won't hold out." A few days after being discharged, Ethan began to wonder what had led him here. Was it the workload or his own weakness? But one night, while aimlessly scrolling online, he stumbled upon a video about Stoicism. It featured a quote from Marcus Aurelius. "Your life is what your thoughts make it." He paused, rewound a few seconds, listened to the quote again, and in that quiet moment, something within him cracked, not loudly, but undeniably. For years, he had believed his worth was tied to pleasing others. He thought kindness meant sacrifice. But the truth was, he had lived like a shadow, useful, pleasant, and invisible. From that day on, Ethan began to change. He no longer jumped at after-hours calls, nor responded to late-night work messages. He turned down invitations he once felt obliged to accept. He started asking himself, "Is this necessary? Whose values am I living by?" Of course, not everyone approved. Some said he'd changed. Some found him colder. Some thought he was being selfish. But for the first time in his life, Ethan didn't care. He wasn't doing things for praise. He wasn't saying no to prove a point. He was simply learning to live a life with limits, not out of rebellion, but out of self-respect. Ethan came to understand. If he didn't make himself a priority, he would always remain an option to others, and if he kept living by everyone else's expectations, then this life, ultimately, would never truly be his. 2. A captured mind and the way back to clarity. Picture an ordinary morning. You open your eyes, barely taking a full breath before your hand reaches for the phone. The screen lights up, messages, emails, suggested videos, breaking news, and images of someone flaunting their life. Within minutes, your mind, still fragile and foggy, has been filled with things that don't belong to you. And you call that starting the day. The truth is, that day never really began for you, because it was already scripted from the outside. In a world flooded with information, where every app is designed to keep you engaged, focus has become a rare and precious asset. Every time you open a social platform, every time you check your phone just for a minute, you're paying a high price: your attention. And attention, as neuroscientists have shown, is not an infinite stream. It's more like a cake. Each slice taken reduces your mental energy. If you give most of that cake to the digital world, how much remains for self-growth, for learning, for deep work, for mindful living? Epictetus once said, "If someone tried to hand your body to a stranger, you'd be outraged. Yet you hand over your mind to anything that comes along." That line, though thousands of years old, has never been more relevant. We let meaningless videos shape our mood, toxic comments manipulate our emotions, and global news plant fears that aren't even ours. We think we're in control, but we're actually being subtly steered. The good news is you can reclaim your mind, and the process begins with awareness. Observe yourself on a normal day. What pulls you away from your task? What suddenly triggers anxiety or frustration? When are you truly focused, and when are you drifting? Simply noticing these patterns reveals how often you're being pulled rather than walking your own path. Once you see clearly, establish boundaries. You don't need to throw away a phone or become a hermit. You just need to make technology serve you, not the other way round. Turn off non-essential notifications. Use apps to limit your screen time. Designate fixed hours for checking the news. These small changes create a quiet space, and in that silence, you recover your clarity of thought. Another key step is to carve out sacred hours in your day, right after waking and just before sleep. Don't let those moments belong to the outside world. Use them to write down what you want to do, to reflect, to learn something new, or simply to be present with yourself. When you start and end the day intentionally, you form a powerful rhythm that sustains your mental autonomy. And finally, ask yourself a Stoic question every time you're about to open an app or consume content. Is this serving me or stealing from me? If the answer is stealing, you already know what to do. Because once you reclaim your mind, you don't just live better, you truly live. 3. You don't lack time. You're losing it. Bit by bit. We often complain that we don't have enough time. I'm busy. I want to study more, but there aren't enough hours in a day. I'll start when I have free time. These are familiar phrases, but are they really true? Look closely at your day. How many minutes pass by in unconscious drift? How many hours are swallowed by idle scrolling? How often do you pick up your phone just for 5 minutes, only to realize an hour has vanished, and you can't even remember what you just saw? It's not that you lack time, you're quietly and steadily letting it slip away, bit by bit. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You act like you're immortal, delaying everything important as if tomorrow is guaranteed." But who can say how many tomorrows we have left? We fear death, yet live as though we'll never die. We postpone learning, delay our dreams, and defer starting because of a false belief that time will wait. But the truth is, it waits for no one. A study from the University of California shows that the average person wastes at least 3 hours a day on meaningless activities. Aimless scrolling, hopping between browser tabs, idle chatter about things unrelated to their lives. 3 hours a day adds up to over 1,000 hours a year. Enough to learn a new language, master a skill, or change the course of your life entirely. And yet, we lose that time without even feeling its absence. Why? Because it leaks away through small habits, too minor to spark regret immediately, yet strong enough to quietly pull us off course. To escape that cycle, you don't need a dramatic overhaul. You just need a small, consistent strategy. Each night before bed, write down the 3 most important tasks for the next day. Don't create an endless list and feel frustrated when you fall short. Just 3 things: clear, practical, impactful. The next morning, resist reaching for your phone. Spend 5 minutes breathing deeply, reminding yourself of your intentions, and then start. And when you begin your task, apply the 5-minute rule. Instead of waiting for motivation, commit to this. I'll work on this for just 5 minutes, and if I want to stop after that, I can. But you'll witness something remarkable. Once you start, momentum will come. Action generates inertia, and inertia takes you further than you expect. To maintain momentum, try the Pomodoro method, 25 minutes of deep, uninterrupted work, followed by a 5-minute break. No checking messages, no, just a peek. Creating undisturbed space for focus is the greatest gift you can give your future self. You can't reclaim lost hours, but you can decide what happens in the next one. Time never rewinds, but you can always return to yourself, starting now. Not tomorrow. Not someday. 4. Let your results speak, not your words. We live in an age where everything is announced, shared, and constantly updated. The moment someone has a rough idea, a vague goal, or a half-formed plan, it's already posted on social media as if to declare, "I'm about to do something big." And soon after, likes and encouragement rush in, creating a premature sense of reward. The problem is that thrill doesn't come from doing, but from talking about doing. It feels like progress, though in reality, nothing has begun. This isn't because you lack discipline, it's because your brain has been tricked. Neuroscientists have shown that when you tell others your plans, your brain releases dopamine, just as it would if you had actually completed something. You feel satisfied from the start, and since you've already felt the success, the drive to continue diminishes. You say you'll go to the gym, you receive applause, you feel good, but that first workout never happens. You vow to write a book, pick up a skill, wake up early, quit your phone, and weeks later, nothing has changed. No real action, only declarations fading with the scroll. Stoicism doesn't encourage excessive talk. Epictetus advised, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Those who follow this spirit don't announce their goals. They don't declare they're changing. They act quietly and let the results reveal themselves when the time is right. They understand that words hold less weight than deeds, and that real worth lies not in promises, but in perseverance. So instead of broadcasting everything, enter silent mode. You don't need to tell the world you're changing. Let them notice it themselves. Don't post the first photo at the gym. Post the one after 3 months, when your body truly reflects the effort. Don't say you'll write a book. Hand someone the first chapter when it's done. Silence doesn't mean hiding. It means focusing on action over approval. If you still need motivation along the way, reward yourself with small joys. A good coffee after finishing a task, a peaceful walk after writing a few pages, a tech-free evening to celebrate focused work. No one else needs to know. You do. And that's enough. The greatest reward isn't praise from others, but the quiet satisfaction of knowing you're moving forward, step by step, even if no one is watching. Before the day ends, do one simple thing. Ask yourself, did I truly make progress today? If the answer is yes, you don't need to say anything more. And if the answer is no, remind yourself that tomorrow is a new chance to begin again. Not with promises, but with action. 5. Is your environment lifting you up or pulling you down? There's a simple truth few truly reflect on. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This holds not only for your personality, but also for your mindset, your habits, and the beliefs you carry each day. If you're constantly surrounded by people who complain, who are pessimistic, who never strive to rise above, sooner or later you'll be pulled into that current too. Not because you're weak, but because the human mind adapts to its environment, subtly but steadily. On the other hand, if you live among those who are persistent, who have clear goals and keep learning, you'll begin to see life through a different lens, one that's sharper, stronger, and more resolute. Seneca once said, "We become the person we spend time with." This isn't just a metaphor, it's a direct warning about the influence of your surroundings. Think back to the moments you felt lost, unsure, or full of self-doubt. Were you, at the time, surrounded by people who only complained about reality, mocked ambition, or treated effort as something foolish? And recall the moments you began to change. Wasn't there someone, a community, or perhaps a book that inspired you to believe you could live better? What matters is knowing how to choose. Not everyone who's known you long is meant to stay with you long. Not everyone you talk to daily contributes to your growth. Some relationships feel pleasant but don't help you evolve. And some people challenge you, make you uncomfortable. But it's precisely these people who push you forward. Your environment isn't just the place you live in. It's the atmosphere from which your spirit breathes. If that air is full of doubt, criticism, and stagnation, no matter how strong your will is, you'll find it hard to breathe and not know why. So what should you do? Start by observing your circle carefully. The people you meet, message, and talk with regularly. Do they help you feel better about yourself? Do they help you believe that daily progress is possible? If not, it's time for an adjustment. You don't need to sever ties completely, but you must draw boundaries. Spend less time on relationships that drain you, and devote that time to finding more uplifting influences. If you don't yet have a healthy environment, create one. Start small. Read books by people you admire. Listen to podcasts from those with constructive thinking. Join learning or self-growth communities, or simply reduce the time spent in aimless conversation. Gradually, you'll build a mental space where growth becomes as natural as breathing. You cannot control the entire world, but you can control who enters your world. And when you choose the right people to be near, you don't just get lifted, you learn how to lift yourself, even when no one else is around. 6. Declutter the mind to strengthen the core. Imagine your mind as a desk. Ideally, it should be clean and tidy, holding only what's essential for focus and creativity. But if you look at your mental desk right now, you might see it piled with old papers, random notes, empty coffee cups, unread notifications, irrelevant news, and an avalanche of thoughts without end. Worse still, you don't remember when you put all of it there. You only know that every time you try to focus, you feel overwhelmed, heavy, and scattered. And you blame it on a lack of motivation, focus, or time, forgetting that perhaps your mind is quietly overloaded. We live in an age where cramming your head with more information is seen as a form of awareness. Every morning, you scroll past dozens of headlines, most of which have nothing to do with your life. You hear one person criticize another. You see someone else seemingly living better. You absorb confusion, anger, envy, and fatigue. Not because your life is bad, but because you've let in too much without a filter. Stoicism doesn't teach you to escape the world. It teaches you to protect your inner life. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That applies not only to material things, but also to the mind. A mind free of meaningless clutter is a mind that is light, clear, and resilient. Because when you stop consuming everything, you start seeing deeply what truly matters. When you're no longer pulled by clickbait headlines or pointless debates, you make room for stillness, and in that stillness, your inner strength is born. So where do you begin? Start by applying the rule of 3 questions before allowing anything into your mind. Does this directly affect me? Can I do anything about it? Is it truly important to my life? If the answer is no to all 3, let it go. Don't let your mind become a dumping ground for excess emotion and worry. Next, filter the sources of your daily input. Unfollow accounts that provoke anxiety. Limit time on social media. Stop consuming news that pulls you into chaos. Instead, fill your mind with things you can control. Valuable knowledge, skills you want to grow, content that helps you understand yourself better. You can also practice a mental white space each day. A time when you read nothing, listen to nothing, engage with nothing. Just breathe and observe yourself. Even 10 minutes a day is enough to reset the mental desk, put things in their proper place, and prepare space for what truly has value. Inner strength doesn't lie in how much you can do. It lies in whether you have enough inner space to stay steady, even when the world is in chaos. And that only happens when you have the courage to let go of what you don't need, to keep only what is truly worth living for. 7. Discomfort is a sign you're on the right path. Most of us share a natural reflex: avoiding discomfort. When faced with a task that confuses us, a situation that makes us anxious, or a challenge that feels out of control, we tend to retreat, look for a detour, or postpone it until we're more ready. But what few realize is this: Discomfort is the compass pointing toward growth. It's not ease or familiarity, but awkwardness, uncertainty, and sometimes fear that signal you're stepping out of the comfort zone and into the space where real growth occurs. Think back to the first time you did something new, speaking in public, exercising after a long stretch of inactivity, saying no to protect a personal boundary, or simply sitting in silence without reaching for your phone. Each time, something stirred inside, sometimes anxiety, sometimes embarrassment, sometimes the urge to quit. That feeling wasn't a sign you were doing something wrong. It was proof you were doing something different, something your mind wasn't used to, but your body and soul needed. Epictetus once said, "Don't seek for things to be easier. Seek to be stronger." This isn't just encouragement. It's a philosophy of living. When you stop demanding life to be comfortable and instead accept discomfort as an essential part of becoming, you complain less and begin to act. Discomfort isn't a barrier. It's the resistance training life offers you. Just as muscles need weight to grow, the inner self needs friction to become resilient. Neuroscientist Wendy Suzuki has shown that each time we confront discomfort, by learning a new skill, pushing past limits, or facing what we fear, the brain forms new neural connections. In other words, each time you embrace discomfort, you are biologically growing. But if you always choose ease, you are training yourself to grow weaker over time. From today, let discomfort be your signal. When you wake earlier than usual and want to snooze, remember, this is worthy discomfort. When you begin a new project and feel unsure, understand, you're standing at the threshold of a new version of yourself. When you sit quietly for 10 minutes instead of scrolling, even if it feels dull, recognize you are investing in what most modern people have lost, their inner peace. You can't grow if you keep running from pressure. And the real tragedy is not a lack of talent, but that you keep turning away whenever progress knocks. So next time discomfort shows up, don't rush to escape it. Pause, take a deep breath, and tell yourself, this is exactly the direction I need to go. 8. Not everything deserves your energy. Each morning you're given a fixed amount of mental energy, like a wallet holding just so many coins. Every action, every decision, every reaction you make spends one of those coins. But unlike money, inner energy can't be quickly replenished with a simple transaction. Once depleted, it takes time to restore, and during that time, you become more distracted, irritable, and prone to abandoning what truly matters. The problem is, most of us are spending this precious resource on things that don't deserve it. Petty arguments, negative comments, momentary frustrations that, within days or even hours, we won't even remember. You've been annoyed at someone cutting you off in traffic, lost patience with a server who got your order wrong, snapped at a loved one over a careless remark, or spent hours debating strangers online to defend a belief. Each instance seems small, but together they drain you daily, leaving you tired without knowing why, discouraged without knowing from what. You waste your energy on defending and reacting instead of building and advancing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If something external disturbs you, it's not the thing itself, but your judgment of it that disturbs you." In other words, you can't control what happens, but you can always control how much you let it affect you. The parable of the wise old man and the angry young boy illustrates this perfectly. When insulted, The old man didn't respond, but simply asked, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does it belong?" The answer is simple. It still belongs to the giver. Insults, anger, and contempt work the same way. If you don't receive them, they hold no power over you. So before reacting to anything upsetting, apply the 30-second rule. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, is this really worth my response? Most of the time, the answer will be no. You don't have to win every argument. You don't have to correct every misunderstanding. You don't have to answer every jab or hostile glance. Each time you choose not to react, you preserve your energy for what matters: your work, your loved ones, your dreams. Another simple principle is the 5-5 rule. If something won't matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes dwelling on it. Life is too short for small battles. You need inner stillness to go the long distance, and that demands restraint in how you react to the noise of the world. Minimizing energy use isn't indifference, it's intention. You're not turning away from life, you're just refusing to let it dominate your mind. When you learn to manage your energy like a wise gatekeeper, you gain not just peace, but the endurance to go further than anyone caught up in trivial distractions. 9. Learn to be alone and grow strong from it. We live in a world that glorifies constant presence and misunderstands silence. If you eat alone, people assume you're lonely. If you spend an afternoon without texting or posting, they think something's wrong. Yet few realize the ability to be alone, calmly, purposefully, and with ease, is a sign of inner strength. Not everyone is strong enough to choose solitude over noise, or brave enough to face themselves instead of constantly running from their inner voice. Here's a truth not everyone dares to confront. Most of us fear solitude not because we dislike silence, but because we haven't learned to befriend ourselves. When the noise fades, when no one's replying to your messages, when the TV and social media go silent, what remains is you, raw and unfiltered. And that unsettles many, because for the first time, they must face questions they've long avoided. Who am I without the gaze of others? Am I truly satisfied with how I live? Am I living on my own terms or performing a role scripted by society? Seneca once wrote, "Nothing proves a stable mind more clearly than the ability to stop and be alone." The strong-minded don't need to prove themselves constantly. They don't need busyness to feel worthy, nor the presence of others to feel whole. They find strength in stillness because they know only in deep silence can we clearly hear the truth within. Try spending time just with yourself. No phone, no podcast, no screen. Maybe a morning in a quiet cafe, an afternoon stroll in the park, or a weekend with all notifications turned off. Reading a book. At first, it will feel uncomfortable, empty, even like a waste of time. But then you'll notice, in that silence, ideas begin to emerge, forgotten emotions resurface, and most importantly, you begin to understand yourself, deeply, honestly, and without any outside lens. Especially on the journey of self-growth, learning to be alone is a prerequisite. To know who you are, what you want, and what you should do, you must first silence everything that isn't truly yours. No one else can answer those questions for you. And once you do, solitude no longer feels lonely, but rather, you begin to feel uneasy when surrounded by things that hold no meaning. Being alone isn't retreat. It's stepping into the necessary space to clarify your path. It's not withdrawal, but the courageous act of cleansing the mind, reshaping your direction, and nourishing your core values. Because once you're strong enough to be alone, you'll no longer need anyone else to feel complete. And that is when you become truly free. 10. Just begin right now. One of the greatest illusions that keeps people stuck in delay is the belief that they must be ready first. Ready in time, mindset, plans, tools, skills, even inspiration. And yet, that day never arrives. There's always another reason to wait. When life is less busy, when stress lessens, when the kids are older, when finances are stable. But in the real world, readiness is never a prerequisite. It's the result. You're not ready to begin. You become ready by beginning. Epictetus didn't write his philosophy of peaceful years. Marcus Aurelius didn't wait for the war to end, or for his health to recover before writing the wisdom of meditations. They didn't wait for inspiration. They began amidst turmoil, pain, and chaos. Because they understood, action leads to clarity. The more you wait, the more your mind fills with doubt, perfectionism, and pressure to get it right, to make it perfect. But often, all you really need is to do something, anything, right now. Imagine you want to learn guitar. You might spend weeks comparing models, watching reviews, researching the best learning methods. But if, after all that, you've never touched a string, then all that knowledge becomes sophisticated procrastination. Like someone studying cooking who never enters the kitchen. Knowledge not put into action becomes a burden, not an advantage. On the other hand, if you buy a basic guitar, learn a few chords, endure the finger pain, accept the off-key sounds, you've truly begun. And each day after, you'll improve. Not because you prepared more, but because you dared to try. Newton once said, "An object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion." Likewise, if you haven't started, you'll likely keep not starting. But the moment you take even the smallest step, you create momentum. Write one paragraph, run for 10 minutes, turn off your phone for 30. Record a single idea. One step, no matter how small, pulls the next one forward. And that's how every real journey begins. You don't need the perfect plan. You don't need motivation. You don't need to wait for tomorrow. You only need to begin, even clumsily, even uncertainly, even without knowing where it leads. Because everything great is built from small first steps. The steps no one sees, the steps you yourself doubt. But over time, those steps will pull you out of inertia and lead you toward the life you truly want to live. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. No need for grandeur, no need for announcements, no need for perfection. Just begin, right now, and let your actions speak for you. I used to be the kind of person who waited until I felt ready to begin anything. I told myself I needed more time, needed to learn a bit more, needed better circumstances. But after waiting again and again with nothing changing, I realized it wasn't ability I lacked. It was the courage to begin without certainty. Life doesn't wait for you to be fully prepared, and opportunities don't arrive when you feel perfect. They come and go amid chaos, uncertainty, in moments when you only have two choices, act or don't. And I chose to act. I started with doubt, with clumsy results, with the fear of being judged, but I also started with honesty, that I didn't want to look back and regret not having tried. From there, I learned that all progress begins with a small action, and true freedom doesn't come from controlling everything, but from trusting that you're strong enough to move forward, even when you're unsure of what comes next. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss upcoming content. Steady your mind. Stay committed to the path you've chosen and live a life where you are the one at the helm, quietly, firmly, and with dignity. I'll see you in the next video.